Hey, Josh Wyden here with REI 360. Want to thank you for joining us today for today's training. Today's training is geared towards real estate agents, specifically those agents that want to broaden their market and hook up with clients that are going to send them repeat business time after time after time. And those are real estate investors. As an investor myself, I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than finding a really great agent that knows what a deal looks like and knows how to pick up the phone and call me as soon as one crosses his or her desk. I recently had an incident with one of my students. Brian is a newer investor. He actually, before he started looking into the real estate investment world, he went and took all the classes to get his real estate license, met a couple other people that were getting their license, and ultimately decided he didn't really want to be an agent, but he wanted to pursue investing. But through that relationship, he decided to trade any incoming leads that he wasn't using for investment purposes for access to the local MLS with one of these new agents. And so, it was a nice little partnership, but he was really frustrated. He was frustrated because his friend, he told her exactly what he was looking for, and she was sending him over deals. But what he thought was a deal and what she thought was a deal were two completely different things. So today, I just want to go over, some of the benefits of working with, real estate investors as a real estate agent, and really just talk about the power of being a well-educated, well-informed, agent when dealing with investors. So, first and foremost, why work with real estate investors? Sometimes real estate investors get a bad rep. They're making lowball offers. They're looking for the cheapest properties in the market. They're hard-nosed with their negotiation, and sometimes they get a bad rep. But the truth is, when you're dealing with investors, you're dealing with an educated buyer. These are people that they know the market, they know what they're looking for, and when they see it, they're ready to buy. That's a big deal. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have seen many a real estate agent pile people in their car, take them all over the city, all over town, showing them a bunch of different properties, and nobody makes a decision. Whereas with an investor, investors are going to give you the criteria. You find the properties, provide them with the properties, and then maybe you go and see 3 houses and they're buying 2. That's a pretty good scenario. In addition, you got an educated buyer. They're professional. This is what they do for a living. They're not here to waste your time, and they understand the value of your time, just like you probably understand the value of theirs. So they're going to respect your time. They're not going to waste your time. Better funded equals an easier transaction. Investors have their funding already set up, and if they don't, they should. Whether they're paying cash, or they're using a hard money lender, or they're using line of credit, or they're working with a bank and using conventional financing. Whatever the case is, professional real estate investor, they know where the money's coming from. They're not crossing their fingers and hoping that the deal gets done. If they've gone through a transaction or two, they know how the process works. You don't have to hold their hand and walk them through the process like you would a normal, a retail buyer, a normal homeowner that's purchasing a property. And so that all of those things are pretty attractive. But the most attractive part of why to work with a real estate investor is repeat business. Most of the time, if you sell somebody a property, if you find them a deal and they rehab it, they're putting it back on the market, you're probably going to list it again too. And when they're looking for another property and you bring them a good deal, of course they're going to buy from you. These are not people that are looking to purchase 2, maybe 3 houses in the course of their lifetime. They're looking to purchase 2, 3, 4, 10, 12 properties over the course of a year. So you've got month after month income from, a repeat client. That's why, obviously there's a lot of benefits to working with real estate investors. However, making sure that you're an educated real estate agent is going to be the difference between being somebody that is wasting their time and your time, and somebody that's really bringing something of value to the transaction and to the investor, so they're going to be chasing you around. Okay. What I've got here is kind of a comparison between homeowners and investors and kind of the transition between the two. Now, some of this stuff, it's going to sound a little bit superficial and maybe it's a little bit obvious, but I hate to disregard the obvious and miss something. So start with motivation. Well, if you're a homeowner, if you're working with a homeowner, they're looking for that emotional attachment to the house. Something in their price range that they can see, and that's why kitchens and bathrooms sell properties, because it's that emotional attachment. It's that beauty. It's the thing that people grab onto. Get that thought out of your head. Investors are looking for one thing. They're looking for a good return on their investment. Sure, they like to make the property nice. Sure, they're looking for a great location. Sure, they're looking for, something that maybe they can get a little bit emotionally attached with and be proud of the project. But most importantly, they're looking for a return. So if there's no return in the bottom line, it's not a deal, no matter how pretty it is. Second thing is strategy. Strategy is something that, I'm talking about investment strategy here. If you're a homeowner, there's one strategy, it's move into the house. Get the mortgage, get the down payment, get into the property. Whereas strategy with an investor, it's a different story. With REI 360, we cover three specific and very, very common and successful strategies, and they are wholesaling, which is the idea of putting a property under contract and then selling the contract to an end buyer at an additional rate. Or, for instance, if I put a property under contract for $5,000 and I sold the contract for $10,000, I would keep that $5,000 and the end buyer would buy the property. Second is rehabs. Rehabs, buy the property, fix it up, sell it for more than you have into it, make a profit. And the third strategy is fix and rent. Long-term holds, we're talking about single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes, small apartment buildings, large apartment buildings. But these are simple strategies, but they're things that if you're not familiar with as a real estate agent, you really should be if you're going to deal with investors. You got to know the lingo of what they're talking about, what the expectations are, what the return expectations are on an investment, what they're going to view as a deal and not a deal based on these different strategies. And because the strategies are different, you got to know the evaluations, and that's the next step here. How to evaluate a property based on the strategy. The way I'm going to evaluate a flip is going to be completely different than how I evaluate a rental property. In one case, a flip, I don't care how much of a discount I'm getting on the property. If the days on market on the property are 700 days, it's going to be a long time before I get my investment back. Whereas on a rental, who cares about the days on market so long as my total investment is in the right ratio to the rent rates. And then with wholesaling, that's something different altogether that we could spend all day on the training, and with REI 360 we do. And lastly, the presentation. When you're presenting a flyer or a property or an email to a retail buyer, you want to present the most beautiful pictures you can. You want to present them with this lifestyle, because that's what they're buying. When they buy a house, it's an emotional decision. Certainly it's based on years of planning and budgeting and saving, and they want good schools, but at the end of the day, it's that emotional attachment that gets them to the property, to look at it, to make an offer, and to move forward. With investors, the presentation is less about the property, it's more about the numbers. How much is it going to cost? What's the acquisition costs? What's the construction numbers? And what are the real construction numbers based on the condition of the property? Once I put the money into it, what's it going to be worth? And what's my return going to be? If it's a flip, how much am I going to put in my pocket? If it is a rental, what's my monthly income going to be on it? So, these are things that you have to keep in mind, because the way it's presented is either going to turn on your buyer or it's going to completely turn them off. I have had situations in the past where I've worked with a seller's agent, or worked with agents that our relationship was very short term. And the reason was, is I would tell them, look, this is what I'm looking for. And so they would plug it into their MLS, and I start getting emails. And every day I'm inundated with these emails. And I'm getting an overload of information. They're not spending the time to find what I want. They're just spitting out everything that falls within certain criteria. I want to dissuade you from doing that. If you're going to work with an investor, it's going to be a little bit of work on your end, but the dividends are going to be really good. Now, on the flip side, you don't want to be wasting your time. You want to make sure that the people you're dealing with, they have, their funding is lined up. They are professionals. They do know what they want. So I encourage every agent to take a little bit of time, take a deep breath, and when you're talking to an investor, interview them, just like they should be interviewing you. When you're interviewing them, you want to find out a little bit about them. Have you ever done any deals before? No? Okay, well, that's not the end of the world. But do you know what you're looking for? If you know what you're looking for, great. Are you educated about it? Are you educated about the industry? And beyond that, do you have the funding? Do you have the means? I mean, you don't want to be dealing with somebody that's going to be asking you to make 100 offers, lowball offers, and then they have no ability to close at the end of the day. You know, everybody wants to get paid in this business, and you deserve to. If you're working for them, you deserve to get paid. So it's a basic interview, and like when you're dealing with any other professional, you want to make sure you're dealing with somebody that's honest, that's going to treat you fairly, that's not going to abuse your time, and at the end of the day, it's going to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So that's moving from a homeowner to an investor. Now, how can REI 360 help? So with REI 360, we put together this interface where we've combined education, community, and real estate investing tools. And they're primarily geared towards real estate investors. First and foremost, if you're not investing in real estate right now, we can show you how. We can show you the step-by-step process of finding the deal, marketing for it, bringing it in, putting it under contract. Now, you probably know how to do a contract, but negotiating, how to evaluate to get the numbers and the returns that you need, how to find the money that you need to do the deals. If the house is beat up, you're not going to be able to get conventional financing. You're going to need a secondary source, whether it's working with family members to pool together some money, or working with private lenders and hard money companies to fund the project. So in addition to that, we provide the education for you to be able to go in there and get educated about the strategies. I mentioned 3. There's more, and there's more information on the site, but there's in-depth trainings on each strategy. These are things that you have to understand. If you're going to be an agent, you're going to be taking these deals to investors, you have to understand what they're going to want. In the best case scenario, you ought to be better educated than they are, so that when they come to you and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this project, you can tell them, listen, that's not a deal. It doesn't make any sense. What's your exit strategy? How are you going to make money on this? In addition, we've got education on the motivation of a buyer. As far as an investor goes, it gives you a little bit of insider information on what they're looking for. We also have complete trainings on evaluating properties. What is an investor looking for? How do they come up with these numbers? Why are these numbers important? And what should you expect as far as offers from them? How are you going to know if they're going to make money? In addition, we have trainings on how to find deals. Let's say your investor is looking to buy 6 properties in the next 3 months, but there's only 2 or 3 on the MLS that meet their needs. How do you go out and market for specific deals that are going to meet his needs and get that sale? Generate deals that aren't for sale. These also result, I mentioned earlier that I have a student that he trades leads for listings to one of his agent friends. There you go. If you can't quite find the deals that your investors are looking for, well, there's some good listing leads that you can turn into additional profits. We also have some software, the Profit Maximizer. You can go in there and you can evaluate a property, and it actually gives you a printout that is an awesome presentation for investors. I use it when I wholesale properties. It is a great presentation that investor can take a look at and say, oh my gosh, this really is a good deal. Let's move forward with it. And it focuses on the investor in mind, with the investor in mind. So we're not focused on the emotional hooks. We're focused on the pocketbook hooks, the things that are going to get them moving forward. We also have we have community. That's another piece of the puzzle with REI 360, and that involves forums and feedback and profiles and things like that, where we get feedback from investors, see what they're doing, where they're being successful. We profile successful deals with our members, but it gives you the opportunity to get inside their head, to understand what investors are looking for, because it's a really different market than dealing with a retail home buyer, but it's the kind of market that will transition you from an agent that maybe you're looking to sell 12 properties in the next 12 months, and that's an ambitious goal with a retail buyer, or 12 retail buyers. But if you have 2, maybe 3 investors, maybe that number is now 36 properties. It allows you to do more volume and make more money. So it's a dealing with investors. If you are a well-educated real estate agent that can deal with investors and give them what they want, that is an asset that investors will be lining up the door to work with you. So, that's it for today's training. I encourage you to, check out how REI 360 can feed into your real estate business, and how you can improve basically your background and work with real estate investors to maximize the profits with your real estate company. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you at our next training.